Hi there. In this video, we will craft a lead tone together. I will show you my thinking behind lead tones and how to make them fit better to your application. Let's get started. First, let's take a look at the signal chain. For this tutorial, I will be using Elements VST loader to host our plugins. If you're not sure on how to set this up, I have a video on how to do this. Check for the link on the description below. If you just want to look at the settings, here are all the plugins you use and all the settings. Feel free to pause. If you would like more insight on how I came up with these, stick around. We're gonna go over each one and some applications. The first plugin in the chain is TSC by Mercurial. It's a Tube Screamer clone. I use it in the default setting, which is drive all the way down, level all the way up, and tone in the middle. The purpose of this pedal is to provide a mid boost to your lead. It cuts down the bass a little bit and also adds sustain. Using this tone knob, it's a good way to EQ your guitar pickups going into the amp. Sometimes you just need a little brighter sound with a little more bite. You will turn this up. If you need it a little warmer, you can turn this down. I usually start with this off and get a good lead tone and then only use it as a boost if I need to. The next plugin in the chain is NAMM. This is my Ampsim. In my opinion, this beats everything else. It's what I've been using for the past 2 months and I don't see myself changing. I'm able to capture my amps into digital form and sound exactly the same. If you're not familiar with NAMM, I highly suggest you check it out by going to neuralampmodeler.com. For this demonstration, I will be using the classic Boogie lead from my Mesa Boogie DC-5 Channel 2 pack I released yesterday. For this pack, I dialed in 2 of my favorite Boogie lead tones. When I think of Boogie lead tones, I think of Santana, John Petrucci from Dream Theater. It's a singing lead that can sustain for days, but it doesn't feel like it has a lot of gain. So it ends up being very clear and clean. We're gonna leave everything at default. Only adjust your gate to make sure you don't have any noise when you're not playing, and make sure your notes are not choking out. I also check here that if you're a player that rolls down the volume on your guitar, that when you do that, the notes are not being choked either. So I think 73 or so works well for me, but depending on the application, I may adjust this. The next plugin in the chain, it's my cab simulator. For this one, I'm using Miko 2 Cab Sim. This is on all the default settings. I just put it here, open it up, and that's it. You can play with it. At this point, we have the bass tone set up. Let's see what it sounds like. Let's see what the overdrive does. You can see that the overdrive just helps you a lot with sustain. It can help you cut through a mix. And yeah, it's a good tool to use. Now that we have our bass tone, let's look at some effects. 90% of the time, I use Helix Native for guitar effects, mainly because there's a lot of options of delays, mono, stereo, a lot of options for reverb, and they're all tailored to guitar players. So I use them anytime that I can. It's a good toolbox to have. let's start with the delay. I use a dual delay for this one. It's a quarter note repeats on the left side and dotted eighths on the right side. So you get this sort of sound where the right side repeats a little faster than the left side. Adds a little rhythm and movement to your lead plane. For the feedback, 50% is a good place to start. So that just means how many repeats you're gonna get. So there you get several. If we bring it down to 3% or so, you only get one on each side. So it just depends on the application. There's no right way or wrong way of doing this. It's what are you trying to use it for? What's the application? And does it sound good to you? And start there. For the mix, I'd like to start around 25 to 30%. It just gives you a good balance where the repeats are not overtaking your dry sound. But again, application. If you're doing some ambient stuff, you may want to increase these. And then if you're doing something maybe a little more thrash oriented and just speed, you don't want those repeats getting in your way, so you kind of get them out of the way with volume. So you get a little clearer sound. The rest of the settings, well, this one's a good one. Low cut and high cut. Depending on the application and what you're playing with, you may want to adjust this to make sure that your repeats don't clash with other instruments in your mix. You know, a good rule of thumb is cut some bass out so it doesn't interfere with the bass, and cut some of the highs out so it doesn't get piercing and interfere with your dry signal, so you get a warm delay. There's other things you can add to your delay, like chorus and vibrato, but that's out of the scope of this tutorial. But this could be a good way to add some texture to your repeats. So let's see where we're at. Well, I guess we had the delay turn on too. I mean the reverb turn on. So this is where we're at. For the reverb, I'm just using the dynamic ambience, 50% mix. And the way I have it set up here is to not have the delay repeats go into the reverb. You can definitely do that, and that's a special effect. But for my application, I like to keep my delay and reverbs separate so they don't feed into each other. And it's a good way to keep everything clear. So the purpose of the reverb here is just to add to a little ambience to your dry sound. So it doesn't have, sometimes the delay can make it sound really wet and your guitar sound really dry, and sometimes it doesn't mix together. So a reverb is a good way to adding a little ambience to your dry sound so it blends better with your delay. Let's see what the reverb is doing. It's very minimal. Just turn it off. Let's try. That's actually quite a bit. We just turn it down a little bit, at like 30%. Yep, I like that. Just a little bit, and then bring in the delay back. 0 here. Yep, I like that sound. At this point, I'm happy with the sound. Overdrive. I love that. I can play with this all day. At this point, I'm happy with the tone, but I'm playing by myself. Most of the time I'm playing like along a backing track or a mix. How do I make sure that this tone sounds good in that mix or with a backing track? So let's look at a backing track and how I will take this tone, make it fit that track, and then I'll do a little improvisation over a backing track for you guys. So this is not a heavy rock thing, so maybe using the overdrive would be too much for this application. So I'm gonna focus on using the input knob in NAMM, the volume knob of my guitar, to make sure that I'm on a gain level that feels good. And then I will adjust the EQ in NAMM to make sure that to make it fit the track. Because this EQ is after the amp, it works like a post EQ. So there's no need to load up another EQ after NAMM. You can use this to tailor your sound to make it fit in the mix. So let's see where we're at and make some adjustments. That felt good, but I feel the guitar has too much gain for this type of track. Also, I noticed that it was a little bit piercing, a little bit on the bright side. So I would like to get it a little warmer. And I think by making it a little warmer, it's gonna sit better level wise. And then also I feel like the repeats are kind of getting in the way. Instead poking out too much for this type of track. When I think of Santana, I don't think of a lot of delay and repeats, but you want to have some in there so you get that ambience. So let's bring that down quite a bit. Maybe 20% on the feedbacks. Let's see. That may be too much still. Okay. And maybe let's bring down the mix a little more to 25. Okay, so I think that will take care of the delay. For the gain, I can use my guitar knob, volume knob, but let's just use NAMM. Maybe bring it down 3 dB. So I'm kind of paying attention to this palm mutes. Like it to be a little clearer and not like I'm playing, you know, some chugs. Like that. Maybe a little. Let's go to 6. There, you get some squishiness there. And then the other thing was the treble. It was a little on the bright side, so let's make it warmer by bringing down the treble. With 3.5. That already, the treble alone is a big difference. So let's put it back. Bright, pokey. Sometimes you want that, depending on the mix. For this one, a lot warmer. So let's see where we're sitting in the mix now. happy with that. That's sitting a lot better in the mix. It's not poking out like the other version with the treble high. I think the biggest difference was lowering this treble. But okay, so let's check again where we at. It's a nice sound. As you can see, not too complicated to come up with this sound. Just using a good source tone, using a good amp that I basically already dialed for you, using a good cap simulator, good IR. I didn't even change the default setting here. Basic delays. There's a dual, but you can get away with doing it with a simple delay as well. And just knowing how to work your feedback and your mix, how to control the gain, either by boosting or lower the input on your guitar or the amp, and then using the treble knob to make sure the overall brightness of the guitar tone fits the track that you're playing with. Hopefully you see that the perfect lead tone, it's the one that fits the application the best. It doesn't really matter if you sound good on your own. Yes, it's fun, and if that's the final application, then tailor that sound for that. But if you're playing with a backing track or a band, you have to tailor your sound to that application, and that's what's gonna make the lead tone shine. I hope this was very useful. I'm going to end the video with me improvising over this track. Hopefully I don't make too many mistakes, but this is one of the ways I practice. I like to get up early in the morning, maybe put 5-6 backing tracks in a row and just play without thinking too much. Again, thank you for watching, guys. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, like the video, share it. I'm really enjoying making these videos. Peace.